This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Squarespace is an all-in-one platform for entrepreneurs to stand out and succeed online. More on them later. Okay, somewhat big news. I think it's more relevant to us YouTubers and also viewers because Oda, the mastermind behind One Piece, he's been talking about fan theories for years. But nothing hits harder than the retirement of some may say legendary Japanese One Piece YouTuber, right? Just days ago, where Oda's comments on a radio show, it stirred up a major storm, even back and forths on Twitter between even YouTube One Piece creators, which people are agreeing and disagreeing about whether or not this YouTuber should have stepped away from theorizing entirely out of respect for Oda's wishes. But let's dive a bit deeper. What does Oda really think about fan theories? And why does he seem so rattled? Did this YouTuber's knack for predicting One Piece's future, like the chaos we're seeing in chapter 1148, push Oda to a breaking point? And here's a crazy thought. Could some of these theories, maybe even ones about Scopper Gaban and Sommers fighting over a woman at God Valley, be somewhat tied to Oda's hesitation? We're breaking down Oda's history with fan theories, Yuderon, because that's a YouTuber, his impact on the One Piece community, and the fallout from his retirement, and what this all means for the final saga as Luffy tries to find a One Piece, right? We're digging deep into Oda's interviews, his SBS columns, and the manga itself, and the speculation just buzzing around the fandom because, guys, we're about to unravel, I don't want to say a controversy, but something that has everyone talking. And it might just change how we theorize about One Piece forever. Maybe we're just overreacting, as we normally do. Either way, let's talk about it. You ever wonder about how to get your business online without the headache? I did. I tried juggling sites and sales myself, and it was a mess. It took me forever to figure out design, payments, and all that jazz. That's where today's sponsor, Squarespace, steps in. It's a platform that handles design, sales, payments, all in one place. I used it to build a solid site, perfect for growing my work and building my own legacy, like a captain charting a course. Squarespace uses design intelligence, smart tech that unlocks your creative potential. It built me a professional site, no coding needed. Their payment system manages sales and invoices. Klarna, Apple Pay, you name it, they do it. Squarespace Payments simplifies tracking sales and printing shipping labels. It is a complete setup for any business, whether you're just starting up or scaling up. And with the online store feature, I set it up to sell products seamlessly. It's like having a crew that handles the heavy lifting while I focus on the business. Want to try it? Go to squarespace.com/B.D.A law for a free trial, and you can get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Click the link in the description. It's right on the screen here. Check it out. Now back to the video. So let's start with Oda, right? Because we have to understand his relationship with fan theories, because that's the key to this whole drama. Because Oda's the architect of One Piece since 1997, and now we're over 1,100 chapters deep. But Oda's relationship with these theories, it's evolved over the years. And I think it's somewhat of an up and down roller coaster worth unpacking. Because back in the early days, Oda was all about engaging with fans. His SBS columns, starting with Volume 4 in 1998, show a playful, eccentric side where he'd answer fan questions with humor and even drop hints about the story. But in SBS Volume 63, he teased Makino's baby's father being probably that person, sparking theories about Shanks that still linger today. So this is letting us know Oda loved the back and forth, even encouraging speculation by leaving breadcrumbs, like the Void Century hints in chapter 395 during the O'Hara flashback. But as One Piece grew, so did the fandom. So by 2017, fans on platforms like Reddit or Jackson, even in the B.D.A. Discord, were asking how closely Oda followed theories. And the answer started to become clear. He was paying attention, maybe a little too much. Fast forward to 2021, and Oda's tone shifted. In SBS Volume 101, he admitted to watching Japanese One Piece YouTubers saying, "I know they exist, and I've actually watched a number of them. I'm surprised. Everyone is really detailed, and the theories too. They actually predict a lot of the future in the story, so I had to stop watching them. It's dangerous for me to consider all my readers to be at that level." Oda's reasoning? He didn't want to assume every reader was a theory-crafting mastermind. One Piece has casual fans too, and he wanted the story to stay accessible for all. But there's a deeper layer here. Oda was nervous. He even said in a 2020 SBS response to a fan theory about the Marine Admiral's mascots, Volume 75, that it gave him a cold sweat, neither confirming nor denying it, but clearly rattled by how close fans were getting. Now, Oda's history with theories, it goes back even further than that, all right? In the 1999 interview, he said he already planned the final chapter of One Piece, and back then he claimed he would change the ending if fans predicted it correctly. But by 2021, on a Fuji TV show called One Piece Variety, I Will Be the Pirate King TV, he confirmed he would not change the ending even if fans nailed it, because he had envisioned it 20 years ago, and he was going to stick to his guns. His former editor backed this up, debunking the idea that Oda would rewrite the story based on fan guesses. So why the anxiety? Oda's not worried about changing the story. He's worried about the impact of theories. When fans predict major reveals like Luffy's Gear 5th Awakening in Chapter 1044 being the Hito Hito no Mi Maru Nika, he risks losing the element of surprise that kept One Piece thrilling for nearly 3 decades. But here's the thing, nobody predicted this Gear 5th Awakening. There were some people teetering close, but nobody predicted this. But I think we got to dive a bit deeper into Oda's creative process because this ties into his fear. Oda's a planner, but he's clearly very adaptable. He's admitted in interviews, like one in 2022 for One Piece Film Red, that he adds characters and arcs on the fly, like the Warlords, which extended the story beyond his initial 5-year plan. Chapter 1148, with its Elbaf chaos involving Gabon, Somers, and the Holy Knights, shows just how Oda can layer new mysteries. The ancient wars hinted in the arc, and this is all while building towards his planned ending. Even Shanks showing up at Marineford, unplanned. Listen guys, theory, especially accurate ones, threaten to expose his hand early, right? And the fans predict something like Imu's connection to the Sea Devil, right? And that was speculated since chapter 1095. Oda may feel pressured to over-explain or rush plot points, which he explicitly wants to avoid. He said that in the 2021 SBS, if I drew mainly for those YouTubers, I would be corrupted as a mangaka. And I would start to think my audience can understand what is going on here, even if I skip some explanations. So Oda's walking a tightrope, keeping the story accessible while preserving its magic. And guys, I'm not gonna lie, fan theories, us, viewers, readers, we are making that harder than ever for him. And is that a good thing or a bad thing? Because in a way, we are challenging this author to continuously deliver. Is that a fair expectation? I mean, you've set the bar really high, Oda, and we just keep expecting more. I think that's because of how great we view you as an author, as a mangaka. And so he can't really hold that against us, right? Now, Yuderon, YouTuber, because he's honestly a titan in the One Piece community, especially in Japan, mostly because him retiring drummed up a lot of conversation. And what he was known for was his deep dive, chapter analysis, and scarily accurate predictions about One Piece's future. Because again, he's Japanese, he sees the connections, and a lot of things in One Piece, it gets lost in translation, right? Because there are hints, connections that you can only really understand if you're Japanese. And they can translate whatever they want on Viz, but some of those connections, it gets lost. And some fans on X or Twitter, they've called him a rival to Oda himself. And I mean, for good reason. His videos weren't just casual speculation. They were meticulously researched. They use patterns. They use obscure details from the manga to back up his theories. He predicted Momonosuke's adult form in Wano years before Chapter 1028 confirmed it. And some fans on Twitter claimed he called Conqueror's Haki being the key to defeating Kaido as early as 2019. Guys, this is well before Chapter 1049 made it canon. Yuderon at that point wasn't just throwing darts, he was hitting bullseyes. And Oda noticed. I think his style is what made him a legend, with a level of detail that rivaled Oda's own foreshadowing, right? He connected dots across decades of One Piece, like linking the ancient robots in Chapter 1144 to Jorber's error in Chapter 1114, or speculating the Holy Knight's immortality revealed in Chapter 1147, and tie it back to the Opi Opi no Mi's immortality surgery from 765. I mean, his videos, honestly, even as a fellow YouTuber, it was a masterclass in One Piece nerdery. And specifically, especially in Japan, he was the gold standard. Now, I don't want to say Yuderon's accuracy came at a cost, but Oda's comments on Shimofuri Seiya's radio program, and this was revealed just days before Yuderon's retirement, seemingly hit him hard. It's hard to understand the tone of this, but let's go off of Sandman, a very trusted translator from Japan. Let's read verbatim Sandman's translation. Sandman says, a few days ago on Shimofuri Seiya's radio program, it was revealed that Eiichiro Oda dislikes having the future developments of One Piece predicted by theorists. Now, the tone is hard to say. Saying he dislikes it feels a bit strong. I wonder if it's an offhand comment, tongue-in-cheek, something he's just saying, right? We can't judge the tone based on what Sandman is saying here. That's something I would like to know. But it's seemingly because of that, Yuderon, he announced his retirement. Now, of course, there are more reasons why Yuderon retired. That's a major part. When Yuderon announced his departure, right, he cited respect for Oda's wishes as his reason for stepping away. He didn't want to, quote unquote, ruin the excitement of One Piece by continuing to predict its future, especially as the final saga heats up with arcs like Elbaf. Now, the reaction was instant chaos. From our own King of Lightning, my brother, he said, on the real though, Yuderon quitting because Oda doesn't like theorists is A, cultural respect we've seen before with Japanese creators and authors, and B, some weak-willed shit. And of course, Jorber Theories, another one of my guys, he had a long dissertation on how he felt about it. Just to summarize, he's basically saying Oda spent 25 plus years weaving mysteries and laying clues with the little intention of creating speculation and discourse. He says this, in his humble opinion, is the backbone of the entire online One Piece community. Whether people are crazy about theories or not, some mystery or another is probably why you found us, meaning us YouTubers. Then together we entertain each other between chapters, keeping engagement sky high. This is what every author or IP should want, and Joy Boy had an amazing opinion on that. So, of course, some saw Yuderon's retirement as a loss, but argued Oda should take it as a compliment. Others felt like Yuderon's exit was an overreaction, pointed out that Oda never banned theorizing. He just didn't want to be influenced by it. How do you guys feel about it? I think it's a bit of an overreaction. I don't think you should step away because the author doesn't like theorists or doesn't like theories predicting the future. This is going to sound harsh, but Oda set the bar, created this fandom, this visceral love and dedication for the story. This is because of you and the fantastic story you've crafted. If you feel like fans are catching on and getting better at predicting the story and are too good at predicting the story because of the bar you set, and quite frankly, this again is going to sound crazy. It's got to be better. You just have to continue raising the bar. And honestly, as readers of One Piece, that's what we expect. It might seem unfair as fans, but I mean, One Piece is a fantastic, amazing odyssey, crafted so well. We expect a lot, unfairly so, but not theorized. That's why we do this. You see, Oda's comments about disliking predictions, I don't think it's just about keeping One Piece accessible. They reveal, you could say, a deeper fear about creative control, right? Because think about his first mention of the Void Century in chapter 142, right? In Alabasta. Or even the Gorosei's introduction in chapter 233. By chapter 1148, we're finally seeing these seeds bloom, right? With even the Goroseis, the lackeys, the Holy Knights, they're clashing with Gaban. Oda has been a master of foreshadowing. And so I guess for him, when fans like Yuderon predict these payoffs a year in advance, it could risk spoiling the magic. And I can say as a YouTuber, there are times where we predict things that when things happen, we're like, well, kind of saw that coming. And I guess that could suck as an author. I think Oda's comments in the 2023 interview, it debunked the theory that the One Piece is just the bonds of the Straw Hats. He confirmed it's a tangible treasure. Oda's anxiety seems to not just be about spoilers. It's about preserving the emotional impact of reveals that he's been building towards for decades, which I understand completely. And he's also worried about the audience's diversity, right? Because One Piece is for everyone, as he said in the 2021 SBS, not just theory nerds, which, you know, we take no offense to because that's a tip in our cap. That's a feather in our cap. And it's fair. If Oda catered to theorists, he just might skip crucial exposition and he might alienate the casual fans. But by avoiding theories entirely, he risks missing out on what makes One Piece so special, the community's engagement. Theories, bro, that's part of the fun. Predicting what's next, being wrong, right? With One Piece is about predicting and foreshadowing, and it keeps readers invested. Oda's walking a fine line. It's not a position I envy. Yuderon's retirement, I wonder if Oda's going to make a comment about it. People have even pointed out that even Shaka's design based on Yuderon, and his death was Oda sending a message to Yuderon. I know that's crazy, but that's how crazy we are. That's how far we go with theories. We're theorizing Oda's theories about theories. How about that theory? But what's next, right? Does Yuderon's retirement change the game? He's a big player, especially in Japan, but I don't think so. I don't think anybody's going to try not to predict One Piece. I don't think the fandom's passion is going to die. People are already speculating about the next chapter. I mean, for Oda, it might be a wake-up call, but Oda already understands the impact of his words. I can see Oda coming out and personally telling Yuderon that he would not like him to quit just because he said he dislikes theories. It just is something for him to work on and be better at. I think there's a middle ground there for sure. Engaging with fans and without letting theories dictate his story. Even in the anime community where people are just hell-bent on finding out, Oda, how involved are you with the anime? And we will never know. Because at the end of the day, it's about the journey, the discussions, the excitement of connecting the dots across chapters. One Piece is a story about dreams, and theorizing, for me, is a part of that dream. Talking about One Piece as much as I can is a part of that dream. Oda might not like predictions, but they're proof of how much his work means to us. What do you think, guys? Did Yuderon's retirement go too far, or was it the right move? What theories do you think Oda's the most afraid of? Identity, Shanks' true nature, Blackbeard's true nature, the One Piece? I'd say the One Piece, right? Know what the One Piece is. That's essentially what the story is called, the One Piece. Just drop your thoughts. Let's keep this going. We're never going to stop talking about One Piece. Even when One Piece is over, we're going to speculate, how should One Piece have ended? Theory. So, like the video, subscribe, let me know, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.